Welcome to the Web Report. My name is Stuart Webb. Tonight we're going to talk about the Hantavirus. So, as you probably have seen or heard, there has apparently been an outbreak of the Hantavirus on a cruise ship where some people have died, and there's growing concern that this is going to turn into something larger. So we're now seeing the big, really all the news agencies, they're beginning to push this story a lot, and people are concerned that it's going to be another COVID. And remember, prior to COVID really becoming this huge deal, months before, the news agencies were just constantly talking about it, right? Until major things started happening, like all the governments together simultaneously, in unison, shutting down society and the economy. Okay, and so I think it's important to kind of recognize and see the signs of this kind of thing happening again. Um, but who knows if it's going to turn into something like COVID? Although, with a lot of things happening all at once, like Iran, the oil situation, this may be kind of a catalyst or something that is just going to be thrown on there as a reason to stay home and save on gas and things like that. But I wanted to talk about predictive programming. So I'm going to show a clip from the show The X-Files talking about the hantavirus. So the show The X-Files was big in the 90s. Honestly, a fun, interesting, thought-provoking show that had a lot of truth in it. And it had a lot of predictive programming. And I'm going to show another clip based on it only ran one episode, but it was like an X-Files spinoff. The creator, I believe, of X-Files, or the producers, made this other show called The Lone Gunman, and it that predicted or showed us basically essentially what happened on 9/11 6 months before it happened. But first, we're going to show this clip talking about the hantavirus, this scene out of the X-Files. Let's go ahead and play it.
Are you familiar with the hantavirus, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the hantavirus. Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is? FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small viral outbreak in suburban Texas?
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the hantavirus.
Well, what was it? What was it?
When we were young men in the military, your father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare, a virus.
What killed those men?
What killed them, I won't even write about. We have no context for what killed those men, or any appreciation of the scale at which it'll be unleashed in the future.
A plague?
The plague to end all plagues, Agent Mulder. A silent weapon for a quiet war. The systematic release of an indiscriminate organism for which the men who will bring it on still have no cure. They've been working on this for 50 years. While the rest of the world have been fighting gooks and commies, these men have been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon.
Negotiating with whom?
I think you know.
All right, so one of the key points in that scene is that, just like during COVID, um, essentially, the federal agencies, the health agencies, were directing the governments to shut down and violate our constitutional rights, because suspend our natural rights because of a proclaimed or professed emergency by them. Okay, so, and then now I know that they did release some virus because, but it just, the extent of the damage, or what they were claiming, um, the risks were, to the majority of the population, were definitely a lie. Um, but they did release something. There was something they wanted to experiment on us, and then also take our freedoms, our liberties, while experimenting on us. So I think everyone uh, knows that something was released. It's just the purpose of it was deliberate, it was nefarious, it was evil, and the purpose was to not only experiment on and violate the rights of God's children physically, like by gain of function research, putting viruses into the population to see what will happen, like we're guinea pigs. So not only violating our rights in that way, but just getting rid of our natural rights like freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, these basic things um, that we're entitled to by God. And so they accomplished a couple different things in that regard. They experimented on us and they got rid of our natural rights. So if anyone's concerned with viruses and they want to stay home, stay home. You can self isolate. That's your natural right to do so. You just can't force me to do it. Okay? You can't force me to just stay in my basement and forever. No, it's totally wrong. So I just wanted to show that clip because it shows this is what happened with 2020, where in the movie, what was it called? Contagion was basically predictive programming for the COVID shutdowns, and they do this all the time in Hollywood. I mean, they show us what their plan is, and that's part of their way of. It's like their false version of prophecy, right? Um, and them playing God, the wicked. So let's go to the spin-off show, the people that created X-Files. This was their just a clip from their spin-off show, the Lone Gunman, where and real quick, let's just read what the Lone Gunman is. On IMDb here it says pilot episode aired March 4th, 2001, so before 9/11. The plot of the whole show, or at least the pilot episode. The lone gunman investigates the suspicious death of Byers' father, a top-tier government agent, and discover a top-secret plan for a false flag operation to crash a plane into the World Trade Center. Interesting, huh? Let's play this clip. It only and the, so it only aired. This was the pilot episode. And then 6 months later, 9/11 happens, and this is all that we have of the show, like one episode. This is just a clip, but let's hear this clip.
What is scenario 12D? We know it's a war game scenario, that it has to do with airline counterterrorism. Why is that important enough to kill for?
Because it's no longer a game.
But if some terrorist group wants to act out this scenario, why target you for assassination?
Depends on who your terrorists are.
The men who conceived of it in the first place. You're saying our government plans to commit a terrorist act against a domestic airline?
There you go. Indicting the entire government as usual. It's a faction. A small faction.
For what possible gain?
The Cold War's over, John. But with no clear enemy to stockpile against, the arms market's flat. But bring down a fully loaded 727 into the middle of New York City, and you'll find a dozen tin pot dictators all over the world just clamoring to take responsibility and begging to be smart bombed.
I can't believe it. This is about increasing arms sales.
Mm-hmm.
When?
Tonight?
How are you going to stop them? Why didn't you tell the world this? Go to the press.
You think I'd still be drawing breath 30 minutes after I made that call? The press? Who's going to run this story?
We would.
This? This is birdcage liner. Wild-eyed crap right up there with Elvis as an alien and two-headed babies.
You obviously read it.
Don't be so damn naive.
So the guy right there says, "Yeah, I'm not gonna tell people what's gonna happen because I'm probably gonna get killed." So and it just reminds me also of back to the 2020 COVID shutdowns. a few months prior to the 2020 shutdowns, there was what was called there was an event called Event 201, I believe, where it simulated the exact thing that happened in 2020. So these war games, these predictive programs, um, they're it's a way for the wicked that are in charge to gain our consent, to tell us what's happening. That's their way of gaining consent, and to also prepare us for accepting it in a way. They're telling us and showing us what's going to happen before it's going to happen so that it'll be easier for us to digest. That is the like the psychological element to it. And so I just wanted to talk about that in regards to the hantavirus. I don't know if something more major is going to happen with it, but I do know that there are a lot of things happening right now, all in conjunction with each other, to put a lot of pressure on the population, us normal people, to just be in a desperate position to submit to evil. And and that's we need to be aware of that, and we need to oppose giving up our natural rights that God has given us. We need to oppose that, and we need to oppose evil. And the people who run our society, not just in this country but throughout the globe, they're not good people. Okay, and it's not. It's to simplify it to it's the rich, it's the billionaires. No, these people are part of secret societies, and they um, they worship um, false gods, and they worship. Uh, they're not Christian people. Let's just put it that way. So they don't. So thou shalt not lie. All these basic moral things that Christians believe. They don't believe that. So they lie to you constantly. It's like 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Went on for 2 years, right? This whole Iran thing. I mean, every other day, it is so confusing. Like the mixed messages from the press, from the White House, it's all to just confuse us and to demoralize us. So we need to focus on protecting our natural rights. Do not give up your right to freedom of speech, the right to express your opinion. We all have that right, no matter what. I don't care what emergency happens. You have the right to express yourself. You have the right to express your opinion and not be harmed, not be threatened with penalty of death, not to be thrown in jail for just simply expressing your views, your opinion peacefully. If you can't do that, you don't live in a meaningful society. You are a slave. You are a you might as well be out in the desert, building pyramids and statues for Pharaoh. I mean, at that rate, you might as well. You're an Egyptian, or you're a Hebrew in Egypt. Uh, so we need to oppose things like this. Be aware of these agendas that they're pushing, and be aware that they've shown us this before, and these are signs that these things are not organic, and they're pre-planned, right? One last thing on this, the difference between something that's a hoax or fake and something that's a false flag. So when we see an event, there are complete hoaxes sometimes that the media says this happened and it just didn't happen at all. And then there's things that I think are obvious that did happen. So events that really happened, but the official story is a lie, because it wasn't an organic event that happened. It was planned. It was a conspiracy. So it really happened, but the story that they're telling us is a lie. Like all these assassination attempts, lies. Did they actually happen? I mean, uh, you could there's there I would say there's a chance that those things were hoaxes in some ways, but the point is that it clearly, let's take 9/11 for example. Clearly, two towers came down, right? So, of course, 9/11 actually happened in real life. But the official story that they told us was clearly a lie. So, that's what a false flag is. It's an inside job. It's a conspiracy um, to commit an evil act to gain power. Um, and when they don't tell you that's why, when they don't tell you the truth behind the actual event of who were the perpetrators, and that's a false flag. Okay, so I think we're at risk of having a false flag for the Iran war situation to get them under um, the control of the U.S. monetary system, the global system that will eventually bring in the where you can't buy or sell without a certain person's approval or a certain entity's approval, things like that. So I think there's a chance for that kind of a false flag. There could be this hantavirus. There could be, they could put out a story that, hey, um, this big outbreak happened and, emergency lockdowns. So we're at risk of a lot of these things. And we need to arm ourselves with discernment, the Spirit of God, the Holy Ghost, to be able to discern whether these things, how we need to act in these situations. But giving up our natural rights, I would say, is obviously um, not correct and not right. So that's kind of my focus is that once the government and the media start saying we need to heavily restrict or completely abolish our natural rights, um, that is a big sign that that wicked people are behind this thing. So anyway, that's all I got for you tonight. Hope that was insightful. Hope that was interesting for you. Um, put on the whole armor of God, and yeah, have a good night.